Hey everybody, welcome to the Steelers show. I'm Chris, got Paul with me, and man, the Steelers just craziness. It never stops. And Nick Farabaugh from PennLive.com is with us. He covers the Steelers on a day-by-day basis. I'm in the journalism industry, but I'm not at Steelers camp, and Nick is. And so you kind of want to get a taste of what's happening with Brandon Aiyuk as well as the Steelers. So Nick, thanks for coming on. Welcome. How are you tonight?
Yeah, we're doing well, guys. Appreciate you having me on. Obviously, we're in the dog days of camp, as I would say. It's almost
Sure.
done. Preseason's coming around, so we're deep into it. And then, of course, this week everything blows up. You think it's winding down, and then Brandon Aiyuk.
Well, I'm sure you're checking Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, like the rest of us. Do you have alarm built in? Like, is there a way that if the trade happens, is there a bullhorn, or you just have to make sure you're checking your email and Twitter like we all do?
Nah, just got to make sure you check it. You have like the main guys on notification, like Schefter and
Right.
Rappaport and Pelissero and those guys. But really, as long as you have it pre-written and you're ready to go, just let it rip.
Okay.
That's really what it is.
And you got that story pre-written, right? Obviously,
Oh, yeah, I do.
okay, good, smart man, smart man. That's what we had Joe Biden dropping out of the Democratic race pre-written like a week or two before it happened. So very smart. The journalist to me likes that a lot. Um, what's it? Well, I'm curious too from the Steelers sense. Paul and I have covered training camp on day like a day here and day there, but we're not in there like you are. Do they ever have a hey, news is done for the day, or you're probably just really dependent upon when these guys announce stuff? Like Russell Wilson had the tweet saying he was coming to Pittsburgh at midnight, right? So you're at the mercy of whenever these guys want to tweet or whatever, right?
Yeah, no, we don't get an alert from like PR that's like, all right, guys, news is done for the day. Whenever it happens, it happens. So
Okay.
I've been, driving home and stuff is broken. I have
Okay.
been out at dinner and stuff has happened. I've been playing pickup basketball and stuff has happened. I've had all of that happen. So, yeah, no, it happens whenever it happens. Russell Wilson one, I remember I was getting ready to go to sleep, saw it, broke, and I stayed up to like 4 a.m. that night just writing away about Russell Wilson. So
Okay.
it doesn't matter when it's going to break. I don't know. The IU stuff could break it like, for all I know, the IU stuff could break at 2 a.m. Eastern time because Omar Khan stayed up late just to get it done,
Yeah.
and everyone else is going to be sleeping.
And with a time difference, it's possible. It'd be like 11 o'clock over there. So you never know. Yeah, that would be my terrifying. I mean, how's this week been? And we're going to talk about what you know, but how's this week been where you never know what might happen? Like, are you on standby? Can you sleep tonight? I mean, what's it been like?
Well, yeah, I will sleep tonight. I'm sure for example, my editor will call me if something happens, as long as he's
Okay.
not asleep too.
Okay.
But it really is, you really do have things on edge. I mean,
Okay.
checking my phone during dinner, during lunch. I think the scariest part is when I'm trying to be out there on the practice field watching what's going on. The check
Yeah.
during practice. I also have thought about this. It could happen in the middle of the Houston game on Friday. I mean, it could.
Ooh.
I remember back in 2021 when I was sitting in the press box in Philadelphia for the
Yeah.
Steelers preseason game. They traded for Joe Schobert in the middle of that game.
Yeah.
So this happens before. It's crazy, man. So you got to just be really alert, be on the ball, and be ready to go whenever. So the laptop comes wherever I go. That's what I would say.
And apologies to our listeners for bearing the lead, but as a journalist, I love hearing the behind the scenes of how it happens. What do we know as of now? I mean, we're taping this. What's it now? Like 10:35 on a Wednesday. Obviously, there's no trade. Where are we at right now with what's going on?
Yeah, so let's talk about the basics. First of all,
Okay.
Brandon Aiyuk wants to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. That is the
Mhm.
first part of this. He holds the leverage in where he goes. The 49ers liked what the Cleveland Browns and New England Patriots offered them. Brandon Aiyuk does not want to go there. So,
Mhm.
in some ways, both of these sides hold leverage. The Niners hold leverage because they need the right package to move a very talented receiver in a year they want to win a Super Bowl. Brandon Aiyuk also holds leverage because he's not going to sign a long-term deal anywhere where he doesn't want to go. So this is what we have. Pittsburgh is in discussions with the 49ers and have been since March. They have been interested in Brandon Aiyuk since March when they traded Deontay Johnson. They've had discussions around the draft. They reignited now. And the biggest thing is they already have the contract with Aiyuk done. That is done. The Aiyuk side of this is done. Brandon Aiyuk is ready to come to Pittsburgh. But the compensation side is not done. The Niners do not like what the Steelers have offered them. And so it's going to be something where this is going to grind out, I think. The 49ers have to be compensated fairly. And we'll get to this in a little bit of why I have changed my view on what this compensation is going to be over time. But they went very high with their first ask. Back around the draft, they wanted 2 first-round picks. Obviously, that has decreased since. And so we are standing here right now where it is the Steelers really and the 49ers back and forth. Who has the better poker face, John Lynch or Omar Khan? That's where it is right now. But right now, Aiyuk wants to be here. And I think the Steelers are very confident they will get it done. I think that's what it's feeling. It's just like, how are they going to get the things that need ironed out? But it feels like it's almost a formality right now. It's just, when does it happen?
I've heard the 49ers want some type of player. What have you heard? Like, I'm sure none of us know exactly what is the parameters, but from what all of you heard and read, what do you think, like, the 49ers are asking for tonight, and what do you think the Steelers are willing to give?
Well, I think they want a player, but I think they want it to be a wide receiver to replace Aiyuk.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this makes it much tougher. The Steelers do not really have a wide receiver to offer. They are not trading George Pickens. That had come up in discussions. The Steelers told them right away, no, not happen. I think the one player the Steelers would be willing to trade that would hurt, but I think could help the 49ers would be James Daniels at guard. He would be an upgrade for the 49ers at guard. But I think, again, the 49ers want a wide receiver. So this is where I talk about why I think the compensation has changed in my view.
Mm-hmm.
I think what the 49ers are going to be looking for now from the Steelers, because it is so clear that it's the Steelers or bust for Aiyuk, and Aiyuk's only going to sign off on the Steelers or the Commanders, but the Commanders are not interested in the price. What I think is going to happen is this is going to be mostly, if not all, draft picks. Maybe a minor player goes back in this. Maybe, Calvin Austin III or someone goes back in this trade, but I don't even know if that's going to happen. I think we're going to see a haul of picks. I don't expect a first-round pick to be part of that haul. So I think what we're looking at here is something like a second, a third, and maybe another day 3 pick. Those assets that the 49ers then get will be flipped for a receiver. That's where I'm at right now. And the part of the holdup is, what exactly is that going to look like? What's the compensation going to look like? And the 49ers, I think, are going to be asking around of, all right, so now we're the team that needs to trade for a wide receiver. Who's going to be the wide receiver that's available? Who is out there? Because remember, the Steelers have been searching for a wide receiver for months, and Aiyuk's been the only one that's really been consistent. So who is actually out there for the 49ers to explore and land? And I think you have to vet those possibilities right now, and we'll see kind of where they land. But I think this is what's going to happen is they are going to flip whatever compensation they get from the Steelers, the draft picks, into a receiver.
Could they literally do a 3-way trade, or would it be more of, the Aiyuk trade happens and maybe a day or two later you hear they trade the picks for whoever receiver it might be?
Well, they could theoretically do that. And maybe part of the hesitation from the 49ers is they don't want to trade Aiyuk for sure until they know they have something set up in place.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. So by de facto, it would be a 3-team trade. So, for example, let's just throw this one out there because it has been thrown around because Brandon Aiyuk's agent, Ryan Williams, was at Las Vegas Raiders camp today. He was in Vegas. So let's say the Vegas Raiders are willing to move Devontae Adams. That could be a deal, right? Where the Steelers, essentially a 3-way deal where the Steelers trade these draft picks to the 49ers, then the draft picks get sent over to the Raiders, and Aiyuk comes to Pittsburgh. So that is not crazy. So it would essentially de facto be a 3-way trade where the 49ers get their needs satisfied and the Steelers also get Brandon Aiyuk. So there is a scenario there where that happens, but there are ways in which to kind of look at this scenario, and who knows who's available. Because again, as I was saying, the Steelers were searching for a wide receiver forever, and it's a pretty dry market right now. There's not really a lush wide receiver market. It's really Aiyuk and a bunch of guys that might be cut. And obviously, I think the 49ers want to shoot higher than that.
What about a guy, Cortland Sutton? And I know I'd rather have Adams and Ayuk over Sutton, but that's one guy mentioned out there. Could that be a guy that even the 49ers are interested in? Or if maybe this trade doesn't happen, because the trade doesn't have to happen. The 49ers can say, screw you guys, we're going our own way. I mean, is his name out there for somebody, even the Steelers or the 49ers?
So I don't think Cortland Sutton is anymore because he reworked his contract with the Denver Broncos. So it seems like he will be there at least this year. That's kind of the news with a lot of these guys. Darius Slayton with the New York Giants had a similar thing. Tyler Lockett structured his deal. Even Amari Cooper with the Browns restructured his deal. So it doesn't seem like a lot of these guys are going to be on the move, which obviously complicates a lot of these things. And it makes things a lot harder to kind of pinpoint down. And so I think when the 49ers look at this, the best outcome for the 49ers is Brandon Aiyuk stays a 49er. I think, let's be real here, right? They haven't talked to him about a contract since May, though. And so if you haven't had productive talks since May, you have to reignite those somehow. And so maybe you stall a little bit and see if there's a path there for Brandon Aiyuk. Here's the thing. Aiyuk has 3 options. The first 2 options were New England and Cleveland. He doesn't like that. He doesn't want to go there. The second option is Pittsburgh. He likes it, but the 49ers don't like it. What's the third option? Back to San Francisco. That's what the third option is. I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility that he stays in San Francisco for this year. I think it makes a lot of sense. The one thing that hasn't added up to me throughout this whole thing is why are the 49ers all of a sudden so urgent to move? I just think that they have a lot of leverage, and I don't understand why you wouldn't come to the table and theoretically go to Aiyuk and say, all right, we'll add $6 or $7 million to your deal this year. We'll put it in writing that we won't franchise tag you, and then you can go test the market in March and try and win a Super Bowl. I think that makes a lot of sense for all parties involved, but it hasn't been discussed yet. So I'm interested to see how that goes about. Obviously, I think they're going to try to keep Aiyuk, but obviously the way it's been trending, fairly clearly they're ready to move on.
He's been doing that sit-in on the train camp. I heard a report that Shanahan might be like, you're kind of getting on my nerves. We got to let you go. You think that might be why we're hearing at least this chatter this week, that maybe he's like, hey, I'm tired of you just running around in your sweatpants. Let's get some guys willing to be here, maybe. I don't know.
I'm sure that's part of it, but I also think, we're talking patience with this stuff and why the time frame is changing. The time also allows the 49ers, probably John Lynch and other people, to look at it and say, Kyle Shanahan, come off the ledge. Let's talk to Brandon and let's keep him here. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can look at that and why the 49ers would wait. I just think there are advantageous things to that of why you would wait if you're the 49ers. So I don't think they should be in a rush to get this done. I don't understand the urgency to trade it. I don't.
Yeah.
It came out of nowhere. It really did. It's like all of a sudden this week, it's like, oh yeah, he's going to get traded. And I was like, I didn't quite understand why we have reached this apex so typically. It makes no sense to me. What makes most sense to me is the exact solution I laid out, which is Aiyuk gets a little pay raise, doesn't get franchise tagged after this year, run it back one more time, and then hit free agency in March.
Do you think, obviously Aiyuk would be better than what the Steelers currently have. So there is a upgrade if he comes to Pittsburgh. Assuming they trade him for some type of draft pick compensation, where do you think it's realistic to see the Steelers at being with Aiyuk without having to trade a draft pick? I mean, could they contend for the AFC, or we look at maybe they could win a playoff game or two? Where do you think they could be with Aiyuk if they had him without having to trade a player?
Well, I think the trade's all about ending that drought. That's been a big kind of creed that they've said, we want to end this drought. And so you've seen some un-Steelers-like moves, like what they've done, overturning the whole quarterback room. Patrick Queen to a big contract. They've made some big-time moves this year, and Aiyuk obviously will be the next in that. But I think that they want to win a playoff game. I don't know if he makes them Super Bowl contenders. And the reason I'm just going to be skeptical of Super Bowl contention, I'm just not sure Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, whoever the starter is going to go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes in
Yeah.
Arrowhead or with
Yeah.
Joe Burrow or with Josh Allen. I'm just not sure that's going to happen in January. I think they can win a playoff game, but here's the thing: you can do a one-off in the wild card round, go up to Buffalo and beat Josh Allen, but then can you turn around the next week and go to
Yeah.
Arrowhead and beat Patrick Mahomes? Or you can beat Lamar Jackson, and then can you turn around and then go beat Josh Allen? Like, that's a lot to ask. The AFC is so loaded. I think if this was the NFC, I think then the Steelers would have a very real chance to maybe even come out with an Aiyuk trade.
Mhm.
AFC is so loaded that I just have a hard time buying them as the Super Bowl contenders. But I think they can win a playoff game or two with Aiyuk. I still think they're missing two or three pieces. I still think they need better corners. I like Joey Porter Jr., but I don't think Dante Jackson is the long-term answer. I still would like them to upgrade quarterback permanently. I think they need that. And then I think outside of that, they already have upgraded the offensive line, but this O-line is young and it's going to take time. They might just need a year of seasoning to really get going. So next
Yeah.
year, I think, is actually fairly interesting if you add Brandon Aiyuk to the mix because you're going to have a lot of talent, a lot of guys that are now experienced, and then you can add corner and a quarterback and try and fill in those gaps. But this year, I don't buy them quite as Super Bowl contenders with Aiyuk, but I think they are definitely contenders to win the AFC North in that case. I think they're definitely contenders to win a playoff game or two.
You're watching the practices. What do you think we can expect from Russell Wilson? I mean, he wasn't terrible with Denver last year. I, I guess my thought is if he could be like he was for Denver last year, yeah, he's not a Pro Bowl. Yeah, he won't square up with Patrick Mahomes, but maybe that could help with Steelers because that's probably more production they got last year. And Justin Fields, wildly inconsistent. Good Justin Fields, great. Bad Justin Fields isn't that good. What do you think about the quarterback room? Do you think Wilson should start? And what do you think it's going to look like this year?
Man, Justin Fields is dazzling half the time and then maddening the other. That is the
Yeah.
Justin Fields experience. He's been very consistent the last 2 weeks, though, here at camp. But I don't
Yeah.
care much about what either of them show me out here. I
Mm.
can watch 3 years of Chicago tape and know what Justin Fields looks like. I can
Yeah.
watch the last 2 years in Denver and know what Russ will looks like now. Russ has looked sharp. He's accurate. He's got a great deep ball still. Justin Fields is dynamic on the ground. He's got a very strong arm, also a great deep ball. He has some inaccuracies. They both run into sacks. Fields probably throws a little bit more interception prone than Russ is. So they both have weaknesses. They both have strengths. And I've seen both of that. I've seen the strengths and the weaknesses. Russ looks very sharp and methodical. It's like he's been through training camp for the past 12 years or something. And then you look at Justin Fields and you're like, man, built like a linebacker. I mean, he looks like a linebacker when you first see him. You're like, oh, man, I can't believe that's a quarterback. And then you see him run. And you're like, he's so explosive. He's a physical runner. He's dynamic. The arm just jumps out of his hand. He has very rare tools in terms of physical acumen. And so you see it jump out of his hand, and he makes these great dazzling throws. And so this quarterback room, it will be better than what they got last year. They got nothing out of that quarterback room last year with Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph. Rudolph had that
Right.
nice run at the end of the year, credit to him, but they got nothing out of that room for the most part last year. And so it will be an upgrade for them this year. And so I expect Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, whoever starts, they will get they'll get around the 20th best quarterback in the NFL probably. And last year you could have argued they had the worst. So big upgrade, honestly. That's a significant jump. When you are 32 to 20, I mean, that is a significant enough jump. So I think that's what you can kind of expect out of both these guys to hover around that area.
Well, and I think offensive coaching was a little messy last year, which I'm sure didn't help the process. I mean, you got Arthur, who comes in as a better coach. Do you think that's going to help? But it's not even just a quarterback room. The offensive line was like crappy at the beginning of the year, then became really well, and then and it's been like that for a couple of years. Do you think Arthur Smith can kind of stabilize that? That maybe it may have helped even last year if they could have had him last year as that coordinator. I mean, how much do you think it was him, or how much do you think it was just the shakiness of Pickett and some of the other stuff?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was both. I think this
Mhm.
is an either or. It's a both, but I do think Matt Canada at his base was such a massive problem. The predictable play calls, the nonsensical usage of personnel, putting them in bad spots, the vanilla basic use of motion, just using motion to use motion. Allen Robinson was out there just doing cardio for half these
Yeah,
games. And so that was a big part. The passing concepts are so bad. The spacing on routes, they would see three guys in the same area.
yeah,
I think the other thing that people underrate with Matt Canada, the scheme isn't that good, first of all. But the second thing that's really bad, the actual coordination of the offense. Like
Mhm.
for an offensive coordinator, the coordination of the offense, getting lined up in the right place, false starts, running the right routes, not having miscommunication, understanding the details intimately against certain coverages and looks was so poor last year. The actual coordinating of the offense was poor. And so Arthur Smith alone will have that down much better. He's a
cool.
very detail oriented guy. He tells you the why, how, and how to do this against certain looks, why we run this against this look, against this front, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's already a big upgrade. And I feel like I shouldn't be praising that because that should be NFL offensive coordinator
Yeah.
101, but it wasn't last year. And so that just shows you how poor Matt Canada was to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so really, I truly believe Arthur Smith, even if you don't love him, and the fantasy football community certainly does not love Arthur
Right.
Smith, I think he
Right.
will be a solid OC for them. He fits what they want to do. They're going to run the ball. They're going to run a lot of play action, hit explosive plays behind it. It accentuates what Russell Wilson and Justin Fields do well. He's got great quarterback run game. So again, whether Russ or Justin's in there, you can use their legs to their advantage. So I think he will be able to really build this around the strengths of what these guys do. And if they get Aiyuk, I just think that's going to work so well. Aiyuk was the most efficient receiver in the NFL last year. I'm sure some of that is Kyle Shanahan, but I think Aiyuk himself is obviously a big part of that too.
Let me ask about this. I want to make sure I give Paul a chance to ask a couple things. Let's say the Ivy trade doesn't happen. I think one of the things that Paul and I were trying to figure out is what does this room look like? And I would think that if somehow a good receiver got cut, or if maybe another guy was available in trade, I'm sure the Steelers would pick up the phone. But there's a realistic possibility if the Ivy thing doesn't happen, you might go into the season with the guys you have in the room. What do you think of the other guys in the room? Obviously, Pickens has a pedigree. Is there a number two guys or number two guy that we're okay with? I know Roman Wilson's out for a little bit. What do you think about the other guys in the room? Should we be worried if it's the same core as the season starts?
I don't think there's a true wide receiver two. Now, I've been pleasantly surprised by Van Jefferson. He's having a very nice camp. He's dedicating himself. He's working his behind off to regain prior form. He had a really good year in 2021 with the Rams, and he felt like he kind of just didn't work hard enough. He kind of just didn't. He took things for granted. Now he catches 300 balls every day after practice and follows Antonio Brown's workout routine. I mean, if there's one thing you
Yeah.
want to emulate about AB, it's what he did on the field and the work he put into it. He was a madman in terms of work ethic. And Van Jefferson's catching everything. He's running really crisp routes. He's getting open. He doesn't look like a wide receiver two, but he looks like a rock solid three. And so
Okay.
that's something that you need. Roman Wilson, before he got hurt, was looking like a really good 3-2. I mean, winning over the slot, he's super explosive, wins on those crossers, wins on those overs. Calvin Austin looks like a really good kind of deep threat that they can use, throw 3 or 4 targets to him off play action. So it's a wide receiving core that I'd say is deeper than last year. Van Jefferson as a 3 is a dramatic upgrade over Allen Robinson. He will block his tail off. I think that's another thing. So if Brandon Aiyuk doesn't happen, I would be concerned because I don't think they'll have a 2. Or maybe they don't have a 1. I guess it depends on what you think with George Pickens. But I think Pickens is going to be a very good player this year and have a very dynamic season with Aiyuk or without Aiyuk. But I think the guys behind him, I think it's significant questions. So I do
Yeah.
agree in terms of, let's say Aiyuk doesn't come and that falls through, I think the Steelers will look to add somebody before week 1 against Atlanta.
What's with it with Calvin Austin? And Paul and I watched Austin beat corners like when we covered training camp last year. Everyone says good things about him. He seems like a really good guy. I know the new receivers coach has said a lot of great things about him. It seems like he hasn't had the chance. Is it Matt Canada? Is it, I mean, I don't think Austin's Tyreek Hill, but I kind of think he could play a little bigger role in the offense. I mean, what do you think his ceiling is? I mean, you think he can do something in the NFL? It sounds like for some reason he just hasn't had that chance overall.
Yeah, man. I think last year he got a little bit in his head.
Yeah.
Didn't play fast on the field. Here's the thing with Calvin, man. He lost his entire rookie season to that foot injury. And it took him time even last year to get fully up to speed. And felt like he was in his head. When you are that fast and that quick, you need to use that. And I felt like he didn't sometimes. He would kind of try and be cute with things. He would, try and do too many steps, and it would take away from his speed and quickness. And listen, guys are going to play off of him because he is a deep threat that will burn them. He can absolutely fly. And so you got to threaten them underneath, right? You got to beat them on a curl. You got to beat them on a dig. You got to beat them on things like that so they have to respect you underneath. And I think he was doing too much. And so corners didn't have to respect it as much. I think that was a big part of it. And so I think this year he looks quicker. He looks more sure of himself. He looks like a guy that is ready to take that leap. I don't think he'll ever be a high volume guy. But if you look at a guy like Khalif Raymond right now with the Detroit Lions, who is a guy that wins deep, gets these high volume targets in terms of deep routes, I think that's what Calvin can do. And he's well on his way to doing it. He's had a very solid spring and summer coming up here.
I want to make sure Paul has a chance to ask you a couple quick things. Paul, what you got?
Yeah, real quick. We've kind of had some over the past few years between AB and Juju, and like there can be kind of that wide receiver diva mentality at times. If Aiyuk happens, do you think that George Pickens and he will be a good team? Do you think there'll be kind of frustration that, well, I'm not getting enough targets, he's getting more targets? How do you see them playing off each other, or will there be tensions there?
Yeah, it's interesting. That's been one of the concerns that a lot of people have kind of raised to me. Listen, George got doubled all last year, and I'm not sure he quite liked it because he didn't get many targets when he did get doubled. If Aiyuk comes, it's not like Aiyuk's suddenly going to get doubled all the time, but George might get one-on-ones, and I think he'll like it. George is as much about stats as anybody out there, and so that's what he wants. And so I think George will be able to get it. I don't think George really values this idea of being viewed as the one. I think he just wants his. And I think that's really what it is. And so as long as Brandon Aiyuk allows him to get his, George is going to be fine.
All right. Paul, you have anything else? Sorry, I felt like I asked a million questions.
Well, that's going to be my one, that haunting issue of it. Is this going to just become locker room drama? But if he's just content to get his, then we could work with that.
I guess the last thing, Nick, you've been very kind with your time. What do you think we can expect to see as Steelers are at? I know you were saying, hey, with or without Aiyuk, they're not AFC contenders, and we would agree with that. What are we looking at, like 10 wins, maybe 11 wins? Where do you kind of see it fall out? I know we still got ways to go before the season, but what's kind of your thought of where they could be this year?
Yeah, it was interesting because they were 10-7 last year against every single odd. Feels like a repeat is probably about right, man. Their schedule is a absolute gauntlet. It just is. That last half of the schedule is the toughest stretch in the NFL this year out of any team. So it's going to be a real bloodbath in that back end. And so I really think 10-7 is correct. I do think that they'll run into negativity with what Russell Wilson and Justin Fields do. They just naturally have too many negative plays to fully keep up this streak of winning in close games. Like Calvin Austin, Kenny Pickett, if there was one thing he did do over nothing else, he didn't turn the ball over. So they were able to ball control things, and so I do think that'll hurt them a little bit. But I do think they're better. They've upgraded so much across the board. If they do get Ayuk, they will have then upgraded wide receiver, quarterback, offensive line, cornerback, linebacker. I mean, and I guess you can even say they upgraded punter.
Yeah.
Offensive coordinator as well. So they have upgraded so much. This team is better than it was when they lost in Buffalo last year. And so I think a playoff appearance, a playoff win is a very reasonable expectation because, again, they brought in so many guys, especially if they bring in Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah.
That is exactly where you put the expectation. You must win a playoff game. The drought has to end. That is a talented roster at that point. Last year, they won with some luck. They won with a style that minimized the talent gap. Now the talent gap maybe went from here to here. You get Ayuk, it's like maybe that now in them. So I think, at that point, 10-7, 11-6, somewhere around there sounds about right.
Well, and we could talk for another 3 hours about the defense. But obviously, offense has been in the mind of everybody. I would say, too, can the defense stay healthy? I know a 17-game season is kind of hard to ask, but, man, if you can get like a healthy TJ Watt, if you get enough other guys in that secondary, let Minka do some more of Minka stuff, other than having to plug in the holes, could you get that outstanding defense? And Dreamland, if they had an outstanding defense like that was almost Ravens-like when they won the Super Bowl, could they challenge them? But that might be a little bit too much to ask because, injuries happen, which that sucks. Well, Nick, thanks so much for your time, man. We could probably talk for another 8 hours, but I keep checking Twitter because I'm afraid that the trade's going to happen right now. But as of the moment, it hasn't. But thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Hang on for a second afterwards, and thanks for checking out the Sewer Show. Have a great day, everybody.